Tamara, I was remembering the first time I did a face talk workshop with you. It was a one-day workshop. It was probably about 20 years ago. It was amazing and I loved it and it was quite funny. And I remember that day you suggested we bring a photograph of our partners in, or our beloved, and we really did have some fun with that. Do you want to talk a little bit about the significance of our facial structure and things when it comes to relating and communicating and in our relationships, in our personal, intimate relationships?
I mean, one of the funniest things for me, if we think about eyebrows, sometimes things are, it's not that things are gender specific, but very often, I don't like to make generalizations because things change culture to culture and also person to person. But very often you will look at a woman and you will see that there is a space between the eye and the eyebrow. So the eyebrows tend to be high. So when the eyebrows are high, there's a little place where she's viewing from a loftier place, or she's viewing from a place that is, let me have a look at this and decide how I feel about it, or maybe I'll decide later. I haven't decided yet, but I'm looking. So, and when you see a man, very often, and especially in our Western culture, and again, I don't want to make total generalizations, but it's fun, they often have eyebrows that are much lower.
Yes.
So the eyebrows that are lower have a different function. They want to get up close and personal. So just imagine, here's this beautiful woman, she's out for the evening, she's at a party, she's been invited somewhere, and she's seen this guy across the room and she's looking at him and she hasn't decided yet. So he's noticed, wow, she's really cute. So he goes right in to get up close and personal. So he gets up close and personal because the only way that he can really know what this treasure is to get right in there and find out. But she hasn't decided yet. But he's already finding out what he wants. So she then decides, actually, I really like this guy. I've decided that he's okay. But for him, what happens is, well, I got in here and I tasted the merchandise, but actually that's not for me. So you can see that immediately we're in trouble because we've got totally different ways of tasting each other, actually, even before we taste.
So where did the idea of this structure of our face and our eyebrows, where did this come in, and how has anyone and you managed to put it in a form that you could teach to others and share with others, and in a way that could possibly, like myself, being in sales, working with people, I was a hairdresser, I found it really incredible after I went back into my work environment, seeing many different people each day. I couldn't help but become aware of their eyebrows and this facial structure, and then also my own and how I related. So what would you suggest if someone was interested in actually coming along for the day? What would they learn that day that was going to help them and encourage them to be curious about this uniqueness that is themselves?
For me, anything that I can find out that allows me to be more in harmony with another is really fabulous. And I often hear people say, oh, I don't want to be put in a box. And actually that tells me more about them than it does about anything that I'm offering. Because the whole point of the work is to offer understanding and acceptance of the other. So also another thing that happens is, very often some people, certain eyebrows are reserved in their style, which means, they're not going to be particularly emotionally available for sharing. It doesn't mean they're not emotional. It just means they don't really share a lot about it. And that goes with other traits, which we're not going to talk about now. Whereas the other partner might want to freely express every emotion.
We hear that a lot in relationships.
Yes.
One person's really expressive and shares, and the other one generally is labelled as someone who doesn't want to communicate, fear of intimacy, introverted.
Yeah, and this is often not true. This is often a totally misnomer. Some people, especially if they're reserved, and if they have a certain other kind of structure, you need to really listen to what they say, because they're likely to be really concise in what it is they say. But you need to hear that. They're not effusive. They're not the person that is going to tell you 100 times a day, oh, you're gorgeous, darling, and I really love you, and oh, you look so fabulous today, sweetheart. You know, sorry, that's a movie, and it's unlikely to be in your life. And if it's in your life, fantastic. But also, it's not the truth for every person. But so we need to listen more effectively. And often what happens is we have these labels that you just spoke of, that, oh, they're this or that or that. They may not be any of those things. And the more that you label them, you're not actually with the person in a way. You're now relating to the label that you've decided about the person. So even when they are saying something beautiful, you're not really hearing them because it's being measured against this idea about them.
Yeah, I think that's really important. You said before, this idea of labeling someone who mightn't appear to communicate or express openly their feelings doesn't mean they're not emotional and they don't have those feelings. This is a big piece.
Yeah, it's a very important piece because how we express also has a great deal to do with the blueprint of our face. Some people express emotions effusively and talk about them. Other people keep emotions deeply inside, and you have to know them very well before they will step into that place of being able to talk about them. And they really need to trust you. So there's...
How would you, just quickly, the trust?
Yeah.
A little, because sometimes in situations, especially in work situations, because I like to use your work a lot when I'm teaching people who are taking care of clients, and especially in like a hair or beauty industry, a lot of times people are very nervous when they find a new hairdresser or a new beautician.
Definitely.
And I remember after, again, the last workshop, going back and sharing with some of my team around how to look at someone fairly quickly and to get this trust. So what are some areas you can share with us today that really highlight this aspect of trust in each other, in ourselves? What will we be looking at?
I think the most simple thing of all of that is, the first thing to do is when you introduce yourself or you welcome the new client, is really be present in you, and then ask them, what would you like today? What is the best outcome for you today? What can I do to really give you what you most are looking for today? And then they feel heard. They feel like you've made space. And sometimes, even with hairdressers, I'm sorry to say, I go in, they have an idea about what they think they want to do with me. You know, so I remember years ago when I had really long hair, and I had a friend say, oh, this guy's really fantastic, he's really good with long hair, especially with curls. And I thought, great. And at that time I was living in Scotland, so I went to Aberdeen. Yeah, he knew exactly what to do, was cut it off. You know, that was his idea. You know, he wanted to totally remodel me. And it was like, hey, hang on a minute, that's not what I want. And you could see that he wasn't particularly happy that I was putting forward what I wanted. So this is the creative hairdresser. But I didn't go for his creative invention. I went to because I heard he was skilled, and I wanted that skill to be applied to what I was asking for. So ask, you know, and effectively listen, you know, and to listen is not to be ready with your answer.
And I think this is a whole other piece, the listening, how we all go about listening. It's definitely something I've been aware of. I actually think I'm a pretty good listener, but I've learnt a lot. I've actually really had to think about how I listen and how that other person experiences me listening and what it feels like for me to be truly listened to, and really share that. So I really feel this is such an important piece in our lives everywhere, whether it's working, relating, even some responses you see in social media and on Facebook. It's listening, it's really hearing what that other person has said. And I think we're all too reactive and just quickly reply. We're so eager to get our own opinion heard that we forget to really listen.
And I think that this is an important piece because we're unique. So we want to step out of this homogenization of, you know, who we are. And to do that, it means it starts inside. So I'm here with a whole other star system. You know, this particular star system today is called Angela. So there is a unique blueprint that I'm sitting opposite. And if I have ideas about her, how can I know her? I need to listen and ask and say, hey, how is that for you? Because how that is for you might be 180 degrees away from how it is for me. And that's okay.